All right. Hello. It is January 12th, 2023. We're in ISSS Knowledge Engineering number nine. Number nine. Can't help myself. Greetings, Carl and Rob. We're going to go over the agenda and touch on some topics. Also, in result of this hour, have a better structured table to assess which initiatives we're going to be pursuing. So any general comments or thoughts that either Carl or Rob you'd like to raise? Otherwise, we'll jump into the agenda.
That's fine for me.
All right.
It's fine.
All right. So first, we continue to alternate weekly at the same time point now, 11 a.m. PT, between education and knowledge engineering. So we're in knowledge engineering today, but just to view towards education, let's look at what they're going to be doing. Then that will help us like partition and set some context for ourselves. And both knowledge engineering and education, they're open to everybody in ISSS or otherwise who wants to join. And this is going to be like sent out to ISSS members so that they can know what's happening in 23. Education has two areas of focus, an internal and an external. Their internal area of focus, or ISSS Education Services, is going to be asking the question, how can education group help SIGs and ISSS members? So we're just going to make sure that ISSS members know that if they have archival or facilitatory or indexing related or educational pedagogical tasks, we can help handle that. And then on the external or collaborative front, we have, through Peter's work, surfaced a 1985 document that very interestingly provides a survey of systems education's offerings at that time. And we are going to design and implement a similar such global survey. And with the results of that survey, move forward on some other discussions that we've been having about standard setting and curriculums. But first, we want to perform this survey and compile it as a resource for the systems community. So those are the overall areas of education's focus, helping ISSS members however we can, and then initially making a survey of systems educational efforts, and then moving forward based upon what we start to see from the survey. Okay, now we're going to just return to knowledge engineering and bring up a few random points, and then also come to some kind of internal and external summarization for our work, like internal ISSS facing and collaborative / external. So one thought we don't need to decide on or anything, and I hope it's not just semantics, but knowledge engineering, it was brought up to consider changing or at least implementing an infrastructural perspective. Somebody has to engineer the bridge. It also is infrastructure, so they're similar, but especially as knowledge representations and accessibility might include like a website front end. So just bring that up as a point, but it's not a big deal. Along with recordings of these first two meetings from 23, I'll go back and just make a very short video summary describing just the internal external of education and the internal external of knowledge engineering. Okay, here are some notes that were reflections from our final meeting in 22. So we discussed in terms of like a program and our deliverables for the year. We recognize that it's a small and part-time and volunteer effort, so we're not going to be harsh on ourselves with milestones, although it's great when we do reach them, and also very possible to seek funding for different activities that we're involved in. So one possible sequence would be to first summarize, perhaps with a catechism format or otherwise, a one-page document, and have that as a step towards potentially a position paper on something like system sciences approaches corpus theory and practice. What are we about? What corpus and value exists? And just kind of like a reintroduction or a repositioning that helps support the relevance of these tasks, which sometimes involve, as we'll be discussing, like going back through historical archives and performing conceptual integration, things like that. And someone had raised this Chan's initiative. Okay, just on these sort of general points, does anyone have any comments or questions?
Just off the top of my head, it's a summary of where we are at the moment, but it doesn't seem like a clear way forward yet. The one-page position paper might be interesting, but it'd be interesting to see what it is and whether it clarifies anything. But maybe as you go on, we'll get into more detail, which might answer the questions that arise.
Yeah. Okay, and we have a note on a Gantt chart. We will structure our task carry forward table in a way that's amenable to different representations. So I'll just bring this down here. All right, so let us assess and discuss and decide what internal and collaborative foci knowledge engineering will at least head towards. First, internal within ISSS. At the end of last year, we identified our internal focus, and just everything is subject to change, as the fundamentals of storage to really solidify the original digitized copies and indexability / discoverability of as much of the previous corpus as can be done to ensure that nothing is irreversibly lost in the future. That work has been ultimately led and developed the most by Rob with the SCA Systems Community Alliance work. So in a way, it's kind of collaborative, but this is going to be like us doing more of a deep dive on the ISSS in the context of broader initiative around these materials. In the collaborative space, because maybe it's kind of bridging the two, is we have the Systems Community Alliance. Obviously, it's your project, Rob, so however you see us helping. Then there are several other possible partners in offer or need of archival work. Not sure if they're also under the scope of SCA or not, but these top two categories are like ISSS and environs, focusing on the fundamentals of storage. This is a long-term journey, but like within 23 or within the first half of 23, if we could have secured and indexed the primary materials, that will have put, even by the middle of 23 or the beginning of 24, we would be in a totally different position than we were in 22. So that's this first top section. Then the second identified area involves the development of interfaces, potentially more traditional database types with search, as well as interactive interfaces, potentially with Coda or other tools, and ranging even potentially into interactive language model based affordances. So the fundamentals of storage at ISSS and cousins initially must triage and focus on the source material. Meanwhile, at first, just conceptually, like from a design perspective, but then later integrating with the schema of the storage will enable interfaces for at least searching, if not doing more. And then just to reflect the direction from above, some kind of writing on this. Okay. What are anyone's thoughts on that? Or what are the approaches or milestones for SCA, and how can this group and pace help it?
Okay, I'll try and give a brief update about SCA. So this is the Systems Community Alliance initiative that I presented on to the ISSS, this group. And I think the presentation was loaded up into the Coda. Just before Christmas, I sent out a first offering of the SCA, which was an index as best as I could make it at that time of ISSS digital assets. And that is with the ISSS for review. Just stepping back, the SCA, I see this as a year's trial to see whether it takes off. But in the meantime, I will concentrate the SCA on delivering content to whoever is responsive. So as far as overlapping with the ISSS, I'd like to couch it as a partnership. So whatever the ISSS would find useful to as content, then for someone to talk to me or a lead to talk to me, and then we can work together and plan it. Because I will respond in a way to who is ever responsive out there in the community. My broad plans are twofold, really. One is to continue delivering content like the ISSS, but like some of the other archives that Daniel is alluding to. But the other side of it is trying to also develop a website in parallel, just to have a go-to place for people to access and keep up with what the SA is delivering. So that's my intent at the moment, but it does depend on what kind of responses I get. Because at the moment it's only one person and it's only a proof of concept or a trial of the content.
Okay, I'm gonna briefly draft in a loosely ranked list some of the priorities that at least I would see. subject to everyone's inputs, etc., and Peter's insight, everyone else who knows more.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, just a total draft. First would be something along the lines of the spreadsheet provided. All of the venues, which you've identified multiple, from conferences to newsletters. So for venues and authors, having at least the tables of contents. That is like having the total index. So and then potentially circulating that if anyone sees stuff that is unindexed. Then from the index, obtain the full text where it's possible. Then from the full text where possible, convert it to a format or support annotation to facilitate search beyond title and metadata.
Question. Are you thinking about the articles in the ISSS archives, specifically around the General Systems yearbooks? Have some quite high quality articles in there, but also the conference proceedings as well. Those are the two main collections that I'm picking up from what you're describing. The other ones, like newsletters, are more chatty and news-based items, so are not so rich in referable content. The other ones, I suppose, are the mini symposiums and the video recordings, and they can be searchable as well. So it's that kind of searchable, high quality resource that you want primarily to index and then make accessible in some way.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Like by venue, I mean publishing format, like a conference versus a newsletter. First, ensuring that we have all the venues and all the publications within each venue in just listed. Then pursue full texts. If they're low-hanging fruit, like if the newsletters are already digital, maybe this is super fast. But pursue both the low-hanging fruit and try to seek out the more conceptually rich materials once we reach this stage. I mean, in a sense, it's almost like this is the overall scaffold of the materials with the index. And then we can take a stage-based approach to each of those materials. You know, venue not explored, venue characterized, full text acquired, searchable full text derived, annotated text. But the annotation especially is far later. We're here.
Okay. I think if I think I mentioned last time that I would be sending you, or in the email, I would be sending the ISSS a second spreadsheet of the indexing that I've done on the General Systems yearbooks, the 32 volumes. So if we take it, as you say, a stage by stage or step by step, if you could feed back on the two, each spreadsheet as I send them, and then refine them and kind of indicate where you'd like to go to next. I think I'm struggling a bit because my schema and terms are slightly different from yours, and that is fine, because I think that's part of the coupling that we probably have to do as organizations and as systems. So I think if we have that information there, then in front of us, then we'll be able to find our path forward.
Could you say a little bit about what your stages or scheme is?
It's basically I call there's organizations, and an organization might be a body like the ISSS, but it also might be individuals or individual websites or blogs. But it's a unique individual, organizations or individuals. And then within each organization, they have collections of information, which is being grouped together in some common theme. And then that's my high level schema for collections. The other initiative is what I call registers, which is just simple lists of things. So I'm planning, for instance, a list of, just as an example, systems blogs out there, maybe, or our systems archives out there. And then people can take those lists or those spreadsheets and do what they want, import them into their own systems, into their own schemas, and develop them as they see fit.
Okay.
That's the high level at the moment. And this is all what I also, funnily enough, call an infrastructure program as well. These collections and registers are part of an infrastructure program to deliver useful content out to the systems community.
A collection corresponds to General Systems yearbooks, or a conference series is a collection?
Yes, so those
okay.
are each of the tabs on the spreadsheet I sent you. So yes,
Okay.
General Systems yearbooks is a collection. The General Systems bulletins for the ISSS is a collection. The mini symposiums are a collection. Newsletters are a collection.
Okay. Well, as this scheme will be leading the way for ISSS archiving, makes sense to kind of reduce any like read write issues by broadly using that approach. So we'll use we won't be as concerned with a cross organizational level, but across collections. And then what do you call the terminal item? That collections consist of texts or what?
It is the content itself, but it does vary. So if it was a journal article, then it's the usual bibliographic data of, say, title, authors, date. If it's conference proceedings, then it would be venue, the dates, or start and duration, and the theme, and so on. So it does depend. That is the common. That is sort of the type, if you like, within each collection. It can vary, but obviously, for collections of journal articles across organizations, they should be similar, because ultimately they may want to be all imported into a bibliographic database, for example.
Awesome. Okay. So just to amend the earlier discussion, like when I was saying publishing venue, I was like venues here. This is just collections.
Okay, right. So I see the mapping now, right? I think I picked up the term collections from a digital asset management, browsing different offerings of digital asset management software, specific and particularly DSpace, which is one of the market leaders. And it seemed to fit what I was trying to collect.
Awesome. Yep. We had looked at this.
Right. Oh, excellent.
Okay. So under this, while we will be thinking about the fundamentals of storage, ISSS collections. That's this task will be federated with your broader perspective across organizations, but we will be focused on ISSS collections. Okay, so that is the first area. Okay, then okay. To push along these stages for ISSS material is the primary substance of this knowledge engineering group at this time. It has to get done sooner rather than later. It's enabling for everything else. We'll have more bandwidth and opportunities when this part is completed. So like you'll send an updated spreadsheet, and we'll use that scheme, and with those who have more ISSS knowledge with Peter et al., we will seek and find the work. Now, where are the content stored in full text?
Sorry, is that a question to
Yeah.
someone?
Yeah, are you just curating links to other database, or do you store a copy?
Right. Are you talking about ISSS content
Yeah.
for
Just actually, yeah.
I I would basically, the collections and registers are just links or pointers to the content owned by the parent organization. Um, Obviously, I have perused, I have access or have copies to be able to compile the data, but I'm not holding the content. I'm just pointing them people towards the organizations.
I do not have a sense of the repository architecture of the ISSS itself. So I think that would be one. When we start getting to this stage, identifying, okay, so we have all the collections types. We have the list of yearbooks and articles. Okay, where are the files? And then at that point, we're either going to have them, most likely like in different architectures or in different ways on ISSS sites, publicly available or some private repository. And it may then make sense to using the scheme of this versioning index to have a unified storage repository that can just be like cloned, forked, placed in long-term storage, etc. Okay. Okay. We're going to come back when we identify tasks to follow up on. But in the next few minutes, we so in these collaborative non-archival tasks, we may simply want to note them and leave the door open, but not necessarily focus on them. Because they're relatively open-ended and the working product or outcome may be useful, but is not as applied as this one-time task of documenting and unifying the storage. And also, basically, if it's not archival or infrastructural, we might better leave it to education while we have such a clear, specific thing to do.
That sounds good. I think a comment is that from what I've seen of ISSS and Peter's work, he has been concentrating on saving and capturing the ISSS content and digitizing it. And the cataloging and indexing will come basically. And I'm coming from the other end of indexing, cataloging, and hopefully we'll meet in the middle. But as you say, if we could bring in education, then that gives you a focus of how to structure the content and the priorities, and how to structure the indexing and the priorities there for a useful purpose. So that seems to be heading in a good direction.
Awesome. Like, okay, painting a sort of optimistic or at least positive timeline. By the end of the month, we could have the survey from the education side prepared, ready to send the survey out. And on the knowledge engineering side, have the collections identified. Then, while we circulate the survey, responses trickle in, we're circulating the survey on knowledge engineering, we're moving things along in a stage-wise way, such that by April or May, we have on the knowledge engineering side total inventory and the low-hanging full content. On the education, so let's just say that's 80% ish. Then on the education side, have created this useful resource atlas for people who are in systems education. And then we would be able to look at our own 80% materials and start to think about curriculum, or just, I mean, there maybe other things would present themselves, like how to do the semantics and so on. But if in the first third to half of the year, knowledge engineering, we focused on inventorying and obtaining ISSS resources. And then in education, we focused on ultimately discovering, indexing, and curating systems education efforts, some of which are at ISSS, but others are outside, which is why that survey has to be outside. Then in the middle of the year, we would have a vastly improved repository, which is its own standalone value, even if it weren't used beyond that. But then also we would see better how to use these now accessible resources for different educational purposes. Okay, in our last quarter.
May I please interject?
Yes, yes, please.
Excuse me. Two thoughts, I think. The collections or indexing of collections, or collections, the content producers of content in these collections are going to keep on producing and doing webinars and having conferences and creating new issues of journals. The indexing of those collections is an ongoing thing which will have a bit of a lag or be sporadic. It won't be real time. So collections, you've mentioned, you described them as one-time efforts or largely done. It will be a continuous thing that will need to keep on developing as long as the content is developing as well. And there will be a slight disconnect between the two. So there is some continuous work in maintaining those collections going forward.
Yeah, totally good point. Yeah, sorry if I was missing that. there's 50 years to go back through, and then it will continue at a relatively linear rate. But the staging, there's just a large backlog.
Yes,
That's much
absolutely.
larger than the next 3 years of content or something to be created.
Yeah.
But stage 0 materials will continue to come in while we
Yes.
move along and build documentation around the staging of work. But there's no fundamental difference between a lecture happening in April 23 and April 1956. It's just a question of what is available.
Yes, absolutely. And the second point as well is that I'm just the survey that is being proposed in the education initiative sounds fantastic. I just wondered if there's some deliverables or collections coming out of that. And it's totally up to the ISSS how they term it, but one collection seems to be maybe a list of postgraduate or higher education offerings within the systems field. But obviously that can change frequently and be constantly updated. So there's a high overhead. But if there's an intention to make a living list of education, then that will need a maintainer of that collection as well.
Yes. Here's the questions that were in the 1985 survey. So it does ask what is the kind of program. So basically, let's see, it asks, program details, projected job opportunities. They don't ask that one anymore. Methods, textbooks, selected publications, research programs, selected list of dissertation professors' names. And then here are the programs that responded. For sure, we will get feedback and ask and like to hone the survey before we put it out, because we're only going to be able to put it out one time. And then I would imagine that it would the form would remain live, and we would also have a date that the form was submitted so that we would perform continued curation, check in with those to ensure the continued validity, like almost like having like a spike in census activity and then a continued following up, perhaps something like that, not dissimilar from the knowledge engineering pace, with a spike of discovery followed by just moving things along in a stage-wise fashion. And
yes, okay.
It's also making me think of how like this could also ask, of course there's survey fatigue and form fatigue and stuff like that, so we really need to make the value clear. But even asking, do you have collections that are relevant for ongoing systems community collection, could be very interesting. Yeah. Okay. In our last 10 minutes, let's just look at our sort of area or project based tasks, make sure that we just have what we want to keep track of moving forward to week 10 at the end of January. Okay. Media Wiki currently inactive, but can be activated anytime. Strategy: developing a rough timeline, just having some table that we can version, even if it's like off. Ways to participate, facilitating asynchronous contributions. At this exact moment, it doesn't feel like there's massive asynchronous contributions to be made in this coda, but I can try to think about what that could be. All right. And so really to the main focus, which is going to be, we will receive an updated spreadsheet. What will be different in that spreadsheet and what kind of feedback will we give?
So there might have been a bit of misunderstanding. It wasn't going to be an update of the spreadsheet I've already sent you. It was going to be focusing on one collection within the ISSS, which is the General Systems yearbooks. And it's an index of all the articles in each volume for all 32 volumes. So that's the author, title, which yearbook it is, which year.
Okay. All right. What would we do with that? Then seek the full text?
No, the yearbooks are already digitized and available on the ISSS website. So if people wanted to access it, they could be directed to join the ISSS and get member access to the yearbooks on the ISSS website. Alternatively, they might already have access to them, and they might just want to import the journal articles into their bibliographic database, or search for particular members or particular ISSS ex-members' contributions in those yearbooks.
Okay, so the previous spreadsheet had tabs for different collections. The next piece that we're going to get is just the yearbook. Now,
sorry to interrupt you. Go on. Yeah.
At the next level of granularity, which is the article
more
index. Great.
Yeah. The first spreadsheet I sent you had one tab which said contained many tabs, but one of the tabs was General Systems yearbooks, and that just listed all the 32 yearbooks, but no article detail. So this second spreadsheet I will send you is going to be the article detail within at a finer level of detail of granularity for the yearbooks. It should all come clear when I send it to you.
Yeah. Yes. Great. Yeah. And is the version that you work with the spreadsheet, or are the spreadsheets a output report from another representation?
I keep what I call the base spreadsheet, which might have more information and some notes. But when I distribute it out for public consumption or for sending to people like the organization, I do a distribution copy where I refine it to take out unnecessary information and personal information. And that's what I call a distributed copy.
Right. So
the base
version is a Excel spreadsheet.
I have gone for Excel as the most useful format, but there's scope to take this core data in the base spreadsheet and distribute and export them in different formats like XML or bibliographic input files, or even in PDF. So that's why I've distinguished between the base data and the distributed copy.
Okay. And so if there were like a revision to suggest, we'd say in distribution 1, 2, 3, in cell C19, there's a typo.
Yes. Yeah. And then I could track down exactly which version it was that was distributed or sent out. And I'd correct the base copy data, and then it would go out in the next distribution whenever that is.
Okay, great.
That's my schema at the moment. As I say, it's still a work in progress and very much open to collaboration and other people getting involved.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, yeah, I think once we see this article level, we'll see what schema are used for the two levels that we're interested in, collection and content.
Yeah, okay.
Then I will explore loading distributions of a given schema into Coda and continue conversations with those with more ISSS knowledge around how to proceed. And so, and also the question of a unified storage solution for ISSS, so that we don't have just scattered, pointed towards links, and then maybe a future distribution could readjust pointers to a unified repository. Awesome. Carl, any thoughts or questions?
Just want to kind of keep pulse on what the plans are, and like I said, just trying to figure out where I can support.
Thank you.
I'd welcome finding out more, Carl, about your interests and focus as well. Just to know more about you and to welcome you, and to work with you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have a meeting with my chair on Tuesday, so I'll be laying out my timeline for some things regarding school. So and then Doug Engelbart's been a huge influence on my work, so I've been looking really at his framework. So I mean, it was all about augmenting human intellectual capabilities and really with a problem solving orientation and things. So yeah, so and then so yeah, as I said, I've been putting together some things, so maybe I'll figure out how to just make some presentations outside the scope of this meeting and stuff, just to start getting some feedback on any recommendations on what to focus on and things.
Sounds good. I'd welcome hearing more about your interests.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to close the recording meeting. Thank you both. Till next time.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good week.
Very well. Bye.